like we're the kind of the first generation to be able to experience two dads situation.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's just an educational kind of understanding that people just naturally think mum, dad, friends during the process offered to carry our baby.
Yeah.
Which was,
Lovely.
at the time, we were like, oh, is this right? Because we didn't want to have any kind of weirdness with our friend.
And the laws in the UK mean that when the baby is born, even though they're not genetically linked, they are the mother.
That is.
So-
I think that is honestly
horrific.
terrible.
Yeah.
So you have to go through something called the parental order process, which we're currently going through with
And
Rebel
her
now.
husband is the father.
Yeah, because they're married. Our relationship is actually, funnily enough, very traditional. We're just two men. Like, we've been together a long time. We're married. We've got two kids. Like, but we're just two guys. That's it.
Hey guys, and welcome to our brand new podcast, The 3am Club, with me, Caitlin.
And me, Leah.
We'll be talking everything about our relationship and parenting and everything that comes along with that.
Pooey nappies.
Couple fights
Screaming toddlers.
and sleepless nights. So you're going to hear all about our parenting adventures, the good, the bad, and the mad, as we become parents of two.
And we'll also bring some amazing guests along for the ride.
We want to hear all about your parenting tips and hacks, funny stories, couple fails, and questions on our segment, The Midnight Mail. So welcome to the 3am Club. Hey guys, welcome back to the 3am Club podcast with me, Caitlin.
And me, Leah.
So we've been super busy with Oakley and Lila on the way. It's literally been a madhouse and we are learning on the go still. So we thought, what better time to chat to some other parents?
So we thought, why not get Stuart and Francis on the pod today because they can tell us what their life is like with two kids.
We're so excited for this. Do you guys want to introduce yourselves?
Yeah, so I'm Stuart.
And I'm Francis.
So we are two dads that basically in 2020 after lockdown, we was like, we really want to have a family. And then went online to try and find different people that were like us that had family. And there was no representation at all. So I was like saying to Francis, maybe we need to be that for other people looking to start a family as two dads. And so when Rio was born, we started kind of like documenting our story on TikTok, and then it's kind of blown up from there, really, hasn't it?
Yeah, we had no expectation. And I think obviously it's quite scary putting your family out there and putting your life out there. But we've been just like surprised how much positivity.
Yeah.
I like to assume that everyone in the world is kind, and we've received so much kindness. We still receive so much kindness every single day. But yeah, we've been together for 14 years prior to that.
Wow.
14 years.
Yeah.
That's
How did
double
you meet?
us.
I know.
Yeah, we're 8.
Oh, really?
So you put us to shame. So we think that's really good. We're like,
Yeah.
Especially in a gay relationship,
Yeah.
that is like life.
yeah, especially because you didn't have kids straight away. You
Yeah.
didn't get married.
We got
Did
a
you get
dog
married?
after 1 year, though. That was
Yeah.
a big commitment.
Oh, did you?
What,
That was your
marriage?
commitment.
Yeah.
After 10.
Yeah.
Okay,
Ooh.
well, this is so off topic, but we were having a discussion. Were you in Singing in the Rain?
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're right. Yeah, I didn't know. I was like, I'm sure there was something, but I don't know.
Yeah,
what
he
it
was first covered to the actual Gene Kelly part, so he
Yeah.
actually got to do it
Wow.
on
Wow,
stage.
that is incredible.
Dancing in the like rain coming down in the West End. It
It's
was
so funny because
insane.
our dog was like a puppy at the time. We couldn't leave
I
her.
bought her.
So Stuart
the
snuck
theatre.
her into the theatre to watch me do the show.
I bet everyone loved it though.
no,
so
that, I
funny.
got actually sent out.
Did you? Oh.
Did you?
after the end of Act 1,
yeah.
which is the best bit, so that's fine.
It's like, have they got a dog in that bag?
No.
Just
Right.
moving back. You.
I love that. So how old's Rebel and how old's Rio?
So Rebel is nearly 7 months and Rio is 2.5.
Oh,
And I know you're
so
about
cute.
to have 2, right?
Yes,
So
we've
what's
got
the age gap?
questions.
we've got lots to chat about.
15 months. Is it as hard as everyone makes out? Do people say to you, oh my God, 2 under 2, like, how are you doing it? Because we get that all the time.
In all honesty, like having 2 is like having 200. It feels, because they're different ages at different times and like different needs. Like it's, for me, I was just like my brain. I like to be in the moment constantly, but with having 2 children, you've got to be like 10 steps ahead, and that
Yeah.
for me is a lot of brain space.
How do you cope with like choosing which one you would go to? If both of them are crying, what do you do?
I think go to the oldest one
Really?
because they're going to remember it more.
Yes.
And then
I agree with
they're
that.
easy to settle down, and then go to the younger one. I would
That's
say.
good advice. I agree.
Yeah, well, I would never even know. I think.
Yeah,
I would
it's a
just
hard, it's a hard
panic.
one,
It's a
but
hard one.
I feel like if you can settle Rio, then Rebel will settle
But definitely
easier.
being mindful of Oakley because it's a whole new situation for him, and you don't
Yeah.
want him to feel sidelined or, you know.
We do actually worry a lot that like when she's here that we'll have to kind of split our time and like one of
We
us be
won't
with
see each
one and
other
one of us be
properly.
with the
Yeah.
other. I don't know how you guys navigate that.
Yeah,
or-
we definitely had that for us, didn't we? Like you were definitely looking after Rebel, so it actually meant that I didn't necessarily like. I did connect with her, but not as much as I did with Rio because we were just both focused on that one.
Yeah.
Whereas when I was constantly off with Rio, I was actually missing spending time with Rebel. So
But
she
also,
also
what
did-
about your own relationship together? Because obviously, if you're so separate with your kids at that time,
yeah,
when do you both have time for each other?
Yeah.
we probably don't.
We have
we're
no
awful.
time for
We
each other.
literally-
Yeah.
We only really talk to each other on the podcast.
Yeah.
It's true,
I'm not
literally.
even joking. Like we were sat filming our first episode. We were actually sat like this. We were looking at each other in the eyes, and we're like, "Oh my god, I think I've fallen in love again."
Yeah.
Just seeing each other properly for like an hour.
Yeah, our relationship is so strong,
That's
and we
good.
are like an actual team, which is amazing. And I feel more like a team now than we ever have done. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And I just feel like it's just such a small season of our life where we maybe don't go on as many date nights, but I just really want our kids to feel so like smothered with love.
Yeah.
And in this season of our life, I think it's fine just to maybe
And sometimes, like, when we have been invited to things, it's like we just go, you go, I'll stay at home, or the other way around. And it just, like, because I feel like you've got a limited amount of, babysitting tokens, and you want to use them for the most
Yeah,
important
I
things.
feel you on that, yeah.
And I don't want to, like, my parents are, like, in their, late 60s, so I don't want to push them too much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's also fine. But just that bedtime is just, like...
really important to
Yeah.
us.
What I'm excited for you to feel is I feel like our family is complete.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
feels balanced. It feels like, just feels great. And
Yeah.
I'm really excited for you to feel that.
So you're not going to have any more.
No, I think that's
No.
enough.
That's the same.
That
for
is
us.
literally the same for us.
Yeah.
We're just gonna stick to the two, and I feel like it's amazing that we've both got like a boy and a girl. I feel like it's so
Totally.
it's
Yeah.
perfect.
It's
I
very
feel like we
lucky.
couldn't have 3; it'd have to be 4, and a
Yeah,
4
that's what
is a
we
lot.
feel like as well.
100%. And then you got to get the bigger car, and
Yeah.
everything is more
All the
And we
expensive.
love traveling as well.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
want to just take them around the world and have fun. I feel like, although we have still got quite a few embryos.
So
Yeah.
talking about embryos, obviously that's from IVF.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to go like through your whole story of actually having your kids?
Yeah, it's quite interesting because what we were doing, so when we look, like Stuart was saying, when we were looking to into it online, there is no guidebook or handbook on how to do this.
There really isn't.
Or any support,
Especially in
really.
the UK.
No.
It's
Yeah.
really confusing.
So, but we felt like more aligned with going to the US because a lot more of the process is transparent.
Yeah.
So you can see, so we use an egg donor, you could see the egg donor, and that was important to us.
Did you feel when you were looking at like egg donor websites, it was kind of like Tinder?
yeah.
Yeah.
It
Because
was
we
so-
felt like that.
Yeah, we did. But
Yeah.
it's quite interesting how
'Cause I never looked at a girl like that in that way.
No,
I
you're
never-
like judging what they
I
look
know.
like.
And I'm like,
Exactly.
okay, so would this face be good with this face?
Yeah.
Like,
Did,
it's
did
so-
you both agree? Because,
Yeah.
funny
Yeah.
story, I can actually say her name now. Her name's Lila, our baby girl.
Oh, such a nice
And
name.
Thank you.
Especially with Lila's donor, we were very, very unsure. Like, I liked someone else and you liked someone else. And we
Yeah.
had like a whole going back and forth. But for you guys, with Oakley's one, we were like, yes,
Yeah, we
that's
both
the
were like
one.
very much
Yeah.
liked
Yeah.
the same, but yeah, with the
And
second
do they
one it was
have
hard.
different donors?
They do.
Yeah.
So we had an issue when we bought Oakley's donor. We were told that they were going to donate again, and we like kind of like what you guys were saying. There's not really much education around it. We had no idea what we were doing, so we just assumed he's going to donate again.
Well, we
And
were
then-
told.
We were
We were
told. We were
told.
told he was going to donate again. And then when Leah fell pregnant with Oakley, and we started thinking about like, oh, we should probably buy more sperm and stuff. We went to look and were then told he's not donating anymore.
That's so strange
Yeah.
because when we donated our sperm for the process, we only donated once, and they literally I feel like they just pull out one sperm out of all those thousand and give it like.
That's what I
Yeah.
was thinking. I was like, when we bought Oakley sperm,
Yeah.
surely there's so
something
enough.
many.
Yeah.
There's so many.
And there wasn't.
No, well, there-
Maybe it's there was no the freezing afterwards.
yeah,
so
I
maybe
think
it
they
was-
couldn't refreeze it to
Okay.
then.
There's such different rules.
Yeah, it's
like-
so
There is.
confusing, isn't it?
But
Yeah.
what I would say, yeah, we.
So we did it all in lockdown, our
Yeah.
whole process. So
Oh, really?
we actually donated our sperm in Spain because you couldn't at that time. You can now since lockdown.
Yeah.
But at that time you couldn't fly your sperm over to the America from the UK.
That's so
you could from
interesting.
Spain, hand delivered.
Yeah, it's so funny because we had an
Hand-delivered.
option.
Oh
It was
my
like
God.
you can go to Germany and you can use this doctor. However, it's not hand delivered; it's like couriered. So there's more chance of like things going wrong. So we were like, let's go go to the Spanish doctor because it's hand delivered, so it's going to be, better chance. And we fly to Portugal to get into Spain because it was all these weird rules. We drive to this I expected like a Harley Street clinic, everything very white and clean. And this is the best doctor in Europe, right?
Yeah.
And it's his apartment.
No way.
It wasn't an apartment. It was his office.
It was his
but
office,
it looked
but
like
it
an
looked like an
apartment.
Oh my
And
gosh.
then his wife is working on reception. And
And then he's like, right, who's going to go
we
first?
sat in his office, like, who's going to go first?
And
I was
so-
like, okay,
I
me.
will.
And he's like, he just pointed to the
toilet.
toilet in the
Oh, no.
corner.
So you just have to just go to the toilet and just go
What?
for it
That
in the
must
toilet.
be a really
No,
strange
his wife
experience.
is on
Was there
reception is
Wi-Fi
behind
and
it.
It's like
everything?
it's like
no, we
it's like
downloaded.
just being behind that. it's like just being behind that screen. It was that close. But anyway,
no.
I did my thing and then came out and then gave it to his wife in the pot, and then she goes and takes it into another room, and then the doctor's like, "So do you want to watch it?" And I thought in that moment he'd filmed me. I was like, this is really, I know Europeans use them a bit different, but this is really embarrassing. But he was like, no, just watch your sperm. So we watched then my
It was
sperm on the TV.
unbelievable.
That
That's
is
so cool.
It was so
crazy.
cool.
And mine was like, it was, good sperm, but it was like, oh, that's amazing. Stuart goes in,
Yeah.
comes out, gives his, and then we watched Stuart's, and his was like 5 times as busy.
It was like Piccadilly
No way.
Circus.
Really?
And then I
Loads
felt
going on.
gutted that my sperm was less.
Did you feel like it was a competition?
It wasn't,
but
I
and
get
it's
what
so
you
funny
mean.
because it's not a thing that normal couples, I mean, some couples who have checked their fertility maybe go through this, but it's not something people normally find out.
No.
But I was like, why do I feel
Absolutely.
gutted that my sperm is less busy?
If I was going to guess, I would imagine it would have been the other way around.
Really?
Yeah, I would have thought it was. But anyway,
Anyway.
that's not about our sperm. So then that got shipped over to America and then created our embryos in America.
Yeah.
But then one of our friends during the process offered to carry our baby.
Yeah.
Which was,
Lovely.
at the time, we were like, oh, is this right? Because we didn't want to have any kind of weirdness with our friend.
And the laws in the UK mean that when the baby is born, even though they're not genetically linked, they are the mother.
That is.
So-
I think that is honestly
horrific.
terrible.
Yeah.
So you have to go through something called the parental order process, which we're currently going through with
And
Rebel
her
now.
husband is the father.
Yeah, because they're married.
So would they have rights?
At this moment,
Yeah.
Yes.
they have full, like if if Rebel went into hospital right now, we would have to get Carly and her husband down to
Really?
sign the forms.
or to
Really?
Yeah.
agree, yeah.
Because we have no parental
That's a funny
rights.
feeling because when you've
Yeah.
been like doing every single night, every single feed,
Exactly.
and then hospitals have been incredible. Like the staff
Yeah.
have been really understanding. We were both allowed to be at both births. Like, we actually haven't had any negative experiences. Like, it was only a few things like in the first few weeks when I took her to see the tongue tie specialist. She had to have Carly on the phone on FaceTime.
Really?
Because she was
Wow.
worried about her medical license and
Yeah.
she's technically the legal parent, so that doesn't make you feel that great, but it's only
Yeah.
a small part of the journey. I
And then
suppose.
soon it'll be over with because
Yeah.
obviously you'll
Do
get
you-
full
In June.
right.
Do you obviously you do, but like wish that would change and like do
Yeah,
you
we
think
would
there's
we would just love, even if it was the birth mother and one of the dads, to be on that birth certificate, just so you have some kind of.
And I think it will
Right.
change. There's been petitions to put it through Parliament, but they're just busy doing other stuff, aren't
Yeah.
they?
But I also think as a surrogate mother, you don't want that parental
No.
you're not
responsibility.
doing it
That's
to
scary.
be the parent.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah,
doing
no.
it to
Yeah.
Because you don't want to have another, but like you don't want that responsibility. So it's actually scary on the other foot for the surrogate mother to think, actually, if they change their mind, then I could be left with
Yeah.
a baby that I'm responsible
That
for.
is so true.
Yeah.
That is really
So
true.
the petition is to change it around. So when the baby is born, intended parents have the parental responsibility. But if the surrogate then decides to change her mind, she has to go through the court.
I think
which
that
is
makes
most
more
like
sense.
it's going to be unlikely she'd
Yeah,
win. But
definitely.
she still has that right to.
I do think it's really unfair though, because for us, that's not an issue. And
Yeah.
we're obviously also in a same-sex relationship, but you gave birth to Oakley and you're
Yeah.
classed as the mother on the birth certificate and I'm classed as the parent on the birth certificate. I feel like that's
Makes
just so
no sense
wrong.
why it's different.
But we ended up having 2 different friends being our surrogates.
Yeah.
That is
Which is-
absolutely
That is
incredible.
really
Unbelievable.
amazing.
Like-
Did that shock you when they
Yeah.
said
Yeah,
that to you?
Totally.
Yeah, because we were thinking we were going to do it with like someone we didn't know, and
Yeah.
that was fine. But then when our friends offered, we were like, "This is."
What a friend.
I know
That
That is
It's
incredible.
incredible.
Because pregnancy is not easy.
Oh,
You've had a
I know.
really tough time with this pregnancy. So that is incredible.
Yeah. Both our surrogates though love being pregnant. So
I guess that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
love
feel like
being
you'd have
pregnant.
to love it.
Although
love
I think
giving
they'll both
birth.
say they don't want any more kids. They
No.
both had kids of their own, but they're
Yeah.
like, that's enough. I'm done with that.
No, but I feel like they both felt such a sense of purpose when
Yeah.
they
Yeah,
were doing it.
for
It felt so
sure.
good for them as well. It wasn't
Yeah.
just a one-way thing.
Yeah.
But something we've also struggled with is like, one of the things is people calling like the donor dad
Yeah.
and like referring
Yeah.
to him as
Yeah.
the
Sometimes I do
dad.
that with that egg donor and call it mum because
Yeah.
they just get so confused. I'm like,
But
oh,
going
yeah.
back to what we said before, the donor does not want to be the dad.
No.
Like,
No.
he is not the dad.
No.
No.
He's donated his sperm very kindly, but that's not what he wants to be.
No.
And it's just, I don't know if those comments drive you mad, because to us, it really does.
Yeah.
And it's like, you say it to one person, but you can't say it to everyone. You physically can't.
No.
Yeah, I just feel for us personally that we are at the we're the kind of the first generation to be able to experience two dads situation.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's just an educational kind of understanding that people just naturally think mum, dad, mum, dad.
But do you think it's just education? Because sometimes I feel like people purposely say it.
Yeah.
Like, I think it depends who's saying it.
Yeah,
I
for
think you
sure.
can tell. Because sometimes the comments are like, oh, he needs his dad in his life.
Yeah.
Where's his dad?
Yeah.
So it's like, I think it depends on what context they're saying it
But I
in.
guess hopefully over time, like that will hopefully change and
Yeah.
like people become.
I think
more
us showing
open-minded.
up
Yeah.
Yeah.
helps people
But it's interesting that we
understand.
both get that. Of course, we get they need the mother. You know, it's like, I find it quite interesting because it's probably more likely that dads are absent in family relationships than mums. But it
Yeah.
is a natural thought to worry about it.
Yeah,
It
I think
100%.
Rather than,
Yeah.
because sometimes you used to be like, oh, what, you know, do they need a mother? Like, and then I'm afraid of that thought. But actually, it's
Yeah.
just a really normal thought.
Yeah,
and
I
not-
love that you've said that, because that always goes through my
Yeah,
brain. But
it's
it's so normal to think
so
that.
natural, but it doesn't make.
But they're going to grow up not having a clue what
No.
the
Any
difference
difference,
is.
Like,
exactly.
Like they're just going to be like, I'm
Yeah.
so proud to have two dads and two mums. Like
Exactly.
that's what I hope anyway.
Yeah,
Yeah.
hopefully.
I hope we give them a
Yeah.
good, you know,
Yeah,
good life.
I agree. So how do you feel about like the kids on social media? Like, do you worry about any backlash? Like, because for me, obviously, we're gonna navigate when Oakley's older to be on social media. But if anyone said anything bad about Oakley, I would want to like go through the phone, like rip them up.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
that
like-
hasn't happened to us.
That's
Actually.
good.
Yeah,
because
that's really
I
good.
check all the comments and make sure that
Yeah.
because Francis doesn't actually read any comments. I do
read
all of
some.
it.
Yeah.
I'm
I
just
do
more
all of the-
sensitive, so I focus
Yeah.
on the creating, and I'm like, is it going well? Fantastic. I'll
Yeah.
just like, I just take things in my head, and then
Yeah.
they'll be on my head for the day, and I'm very strong, like I know myself, but I just don't want extra things
Yeah.
on my mind that I don't need.
See,
Yeah.
for us, we've actually had the conversation that when the kids are old enough, we're going to turn off every single comment section on our videos, just in case.
Wow,
Because
great.
You
we
can't
have
check
some
everything.
we have some like awful comment sections, some of them about like Oakley like needing a dad or whatever, or
Yeah.
like very homophobic comments and
Yeah.
just things that we wouldn't want him to read.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
definitely think we will turn off comments when
I
he's
don't think
old
there'll
enough.
be a comment section on any videos.
No, because could you imagine if he like goes into school and people have been reading
Yeah,
our
so
comments and then they
It's this
are,
balance,
or-
isn't it? Because like what we're doing, and not to say that we're like some great campaigners or whatever, like we're just living our lives, but
Yeah.
what we are doing is making a difference
Yeah.
for other couples out there
Yeah,
to see
definitely.
positive relationships of two women and two men having families. Like that is so important, and it needs
Yeah.
some visibility, and without that visibility, you know, when we looked
Yeah.
into the process, all the celebrities that do it don't show anything,
No.
so
Yeah,
it's still
it's
so
very
mysterious.
true.
And I
It's
understand.
hard.
I understand why. as
Understand
well.
that why,
Yeah.
but
The only person that did was Neil Patrick Harris, and I literally had pictures of him and his family on our vision board
Yeah.
for years because he was the first kind of like connector for me, going, oh my god, this could be possible for us.
Yeah.
And it was so amazing. So that's why I really wanted to show our story, because I really wanted to be that for the next generation, so people
Yeah.
can
I
bet
actually
you
have.
are.
Well,
You definitely are. Definitely.
But
Like,
we are constantly checking ourselves about
yeah, because
is
it's
what
a
we're doing
big
right.
decision with kids. Like
It
we,
is hard.
Yeah.
when we very first like started having Rio, we're like, do we really, really want to do this? Like, although we want to have
Yeah.
that visibility, is this something that our family, this is going to be in our lives for a long time? Do we really want that? And we had a really deep conversation, because Rio and Rebel are our main priority, and we would happily like close it down if we didn't believe we were doing the right thing for
Yeah.
those two. But I just felt like we weren't doing it just to be influencers. We were doing it to have a bigger voice and a bigger purpose. So I really felt that it was important that we showed up.
I personally feel like watching TikTok, and sometimes when you go around down a little scroll hole, like there's so much need for positivity, and I get such a positive, uplifting feel when I watch your content.
Yeah.
And you know, I also feel like you do tackle challenging subjects as well, but it's everything's done with love, and I just feel like we need more voices like
100%.
that online,
for sure.
and that's what I feel.
I wish we had it when we were growing up.
Totally.
Yeah.
Because imagine
The only representation
yeah.
that I saw as a gay kid growing up was people being outed on TV and people not happy. And I just assumed that would be my future. So part of the reason why we didn't really show ourselves before on social media, because I don't know.
This is so strange. So we've been together since we were 21 or 22 and 25, and we just never went to a gay pride.
No.
We just all our friends were girls. So
Have
we
you
just
been
kind of,
since?
Yeah.
good,
Since we had
good.
Rio.
Yeah.
We've been taking Rio to
that's
gay
amazing.
pride.
we were like, this is amazing. But we
So we love to party.
Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah.
why
Love
did
it.
we miss out on
we
that.
just
That's
didn't
sad.
we didn't invest into our gayness. We were like just like all our friends were girls, so we're just like, yeah, it's my boyfriend, and I
It just
don't know
felt
why.
like, yeah. And then when we started having Rio, we're like, oh God, we're gay.
What were your families like when you came out and stuff? Like, were
So
they...
my mum is Dutch and my dad is Norwegian, and I don't know why that makes a difference, but I feel like they're a bit more worldly. And my grandparents in Holland had gay friends in like the 50s. So
Oh, wow.
my mum knew when I was 3. She just had this sense that I was different. I'm one of 4 boys, number 3. So when I came out as gay, so I went to the same drama school as Stuart, and it was literally like going from small town in Wales to like gay heaven. Really, I'd say
was gay.
80% of people were gay. So it just was like this accepting moment, and I felt like I wanted to tell them pretty soon. So I did, and they both leapt to their feet, and they were just so happy because they thought that they didn't want me to go much longer in life and not accept it. So it was such a it was an amazing moment for me.
Yeah, and
That's amazing.
It is like Francis had a kind of different story to me. My mum and dad, my dad's passed away now, but my mum right now is having like the best time ever with the kids and just absolutely loves it. But at the beginning, I do feel like they did find it quite hard. I think they had an ideal of what they wanted or expected their son to be, and I don't think I fit that kind of mold at the start.
Yeah.
So it was a bit of friction, I think, at the very beginning. But my parents have always been very loving and understanding, but it just was just different. And also, like in my later years, I've come to understand like their exposure to being gay was so and it's also like the AIDS pandemic and all these things that they lived through. My dad, when he was growing up, if you were gay, you'd gone to prison. So it's like it's like so many reasons why he would have had all of these kind of like preconceived ideas that my life wasn't going to be a happy one. But actually now on the flip side, where I am right now, everything they were worried about, I think I've lived the total opposite life. Like we've got amazing friends around us, and we've got amazing people, and so happy with a family. I don't think my mum and dad could ever imagine that to be.
Our relationship is actually, funnily enough, very traditional. We're just 2 men. Like we've been together a long time. We're married.
Yeah.
We've got 2 kids.
Yeah.
Like, but we're just 2 guys. That's
Yeah,
it.
it's very true. Do they talk back to the time like when maybe they weren't so happy with it? Do they
Your
ever?
mum's not the best at that.
No.
Your mum's not the best at reflecting.
No reflection needed for her.
Yeah.
No, actually, we don't. Like when my dad was like in his last year of life, I said to my dad, I really want to have a baby, like really want to have family. And he was so shocked because we had this lovely life. He was like, I'm so shocked that you actually want that for yourself.
But
then-
also because he was ill, he had cancer. That last year of his life was an amazing year we got to spend with him. But he's almost like he just softened and he had more acceptance and he wanted to speak about, I remember our cleaner at the time, what was like trying to tell him that we wanted to get married, and he was like, oh.
Did the cleaner tell your
Yeah.
dad that you guys wanted to get married?
And it's just like he was a kitchen fitter, so he was like traditional, like British man. Oh, don't want to talk about feelings, but
no feelings talk.
but he kind of just softened, and it was so sad, but also really beautiful.
Yeah, that last year of his life was amazing. But when he died, that was for me the moment where I was like, I want to be a dad. That was really like a thing for me. And so when we did have Rio first, it was perfect. Like a little boy, like I feel like my dad, like, it was amazing.
now we're going to get into our section Midnight Mail, which is basically where our viewers write in and send in like any questions, any funny parenting stories, or literally anything. And then we've had a look at them at like 3 a.m. and chosen which ones we think are best.
Yeah,
So-
some of them are pretty crazy.
Okay, so the first one is from Alice. How do you ensure your relationship stays strong when you live together?
You know what, something I've learned from my parents, like watching their relationship, is that, you know, you do change if you've been together for a long time. You grow and you become different people. And I think it's just about, I've just learned to accept that Stuart is not a housewife and will not pick up every single thing from the floor or doesn't like doing the washing up. And sometimes it does annoy me because I'm like, just do the washing up. But I've learned to accept that that's not where his strength lies. And I think if you're in this constant place of trying to make everything fair, it's never going to be fair in that way, but just celebrate each other's strengths, and yeah, that keeps you healthy.
What Francis' mum and dad said to us, which really has stuck with me, is that the person you start dating in your 20s isn't this person that you then end up knowing in your 30s, your 40s, your 50s.
Yeah.
And I think it's a case of really growing together. Like me and Francis, like in our 20s, we're really into personal development and like learning, and we're reading the same books, and we really felt like we were growing together. So I feel like as long as you can grow together, I feel you can conquer anything.
I feel like that is really true and really important. And I feel like we've noticed that in our relationship, like since having kids and stuff, like your relationship changes and you
Totally.
change as you go through different stages in life. And like, it's just accepting that and like going through struggles together, but then finding a solution rather than just ending
Yeah,
it.
Totally.
like we actually said when we first got together, we were so similar, like everything was the same. And now we've realised we're actually so different,
Yeah.
and that's okay.
So Luna says, what advice do you have for regulating your emotions when you're frustrated with your kids?
Yeah, I don't know what I actually do. I'm just naturally like, I always go down to Rio's level and understand that he's, especially when like they're 2, 3, like they're going to have all these emotions they can't deal with. So I always just have the conversation with Rio. And I feel like we're only at the very beginning of this journey. I'm sure there's going to be much more frustrations, right? Like later on. But
I think it's just checking yourself, because often when you think about, okay, why am I getting angry? Am I getting angry because I'm tired, or because I haven't organised something, or his lunch is late, or I've not fed him? Like often it, not to blame yourself, because there's not to blame yourself all the time, but it often are, it just to take a bit more responsibility. Then you can't, that makes you think, I'm not going to shout at him because it's not always his fault. And he's also too,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
another thing in the back of my mind also is that we wanted this for so long, and I feel so blessed that this is part of my life. And there are so many thousands of people that would be desperate to be where I am right now. So in those kind of moments, I'm just so like, even though it's hard, it really is hard, just being that grateful that actually I've got to experience this hard, because there could have been very easily not.
So
I've got one more thing, and that's something I've learned from my therapist again. But it's really important, because sometimes you will get angry, and
Yeah.
sometimes they do need to see you get angry because they've done something which, and if you were always like calm and everything, that's not
They're not gonna
realistic.
learn, yeah.
And they need to learn, like, you know, him hitting his sister over the head with a boat in the bath. You got very, very
Yeah, I
angry.
did. That
Yeah.
was
And he was
really
upset, but he
aggressive.
needed to know that
Yeah, it's
wasn't
very true.
acceptable. If you were at that level all the time, that's not nice for a child. That's scary. But there are going to be moments where you are going
No
to be
boats in
angry.
the bath.
But I feel like it's so normal to feel that frustration, and you can feel guilty that you are frustrated.
Yeah.
But then I
Yeah.
feel like it's a normal emotion to have,
Oh,
and it's just learning how
totally.
to express it and like do it in a like, you know, a good way.
And I feel like we always are together, and that makes such a difference.
Yeah.
Like if you're
That's
doing this
good.
by yourself, like which
Hats
most
off to
people
you.
are, then
Incredible.
it's
Wow.
so
It'd
much
be
different.
very
It's so
hard.
different.
Yeah. So on to the next question. They don't want to be named, but they've asked, who was your first crush?
I know
I
mine.
think, I think my very first crush was Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah, mine was too.
Oh.
Yeah.
Really? You
Yeah.
had the
But then-
same crush?
Yeah, but then my second, and like the one that kind of like led me through to Francis, was Jesse Metcalfe, the guy, you know, in Desperate Housewives, he was the gardener.
I don't know.
Oh.
Why did it lead you through to Francis?
Because
Do they look the same?
I feel like they look similar.
Oh.
Well, I'm dark haired.
Yeah, got dark hair. But he had really lovely muscles like Francis. Just perfect. But it was Titanic for me though. It was just like,
Oh,
Titanic
yeah.
was
my
the one.
God.
I have posters of it on my wall.
Did you?
This is my mum. She's amazing. So my brother was like, "Why have you got a poster of Leonardo DiCaprio on your wall?" And my mum said, "Well, you've got posters of footballers on your wall. So what's
I
the
love
difference?"
that. Yeah,
That's true.
It's like,
I
yes,
love that.
mum.
Yes.
But you know Leonardo DiCaprio DiCaprio, do you feel like he looks a completely different person
Yeah.
from when he was
Yeah,
younger?
he was
I feel like
Totally.
I wouldn't even recognise him now.
Talk about
in
party.
comparison.
I don't even know what he looks like now, so I'm just like, yeah, but I don't.
You probably
like-
don't
it's a
even
bit
know
like
what he
that.
I
did
don't know.
before.
Oh, I thought he was going to say you don't know who he is. I know who he is.
It's a bit like
but
Zac Efron as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that really upset me.
Yeah, because he's like your biggest crush.
when I was younger, probably. But who was your first crush?
Right. Well, I used to love Peter Andre.
Yeah.
She was
But do you watch
obsessed.
Coronation Street?
No, not at the minute,
No,
but
no.
Do you know Tyrone from Coronation Street?
no, I
She
don't.
thinks this is ridiculous. I think he's good looking.
Right, okay. I don't know. I don't know if I know him.
If you'll have to get a picture up
Yeah.
because Caitlin and your mum always used to laugh at me about that.
Because he's just so different to Peter Andre. So before we go, could you give one piece of advice to the people in the 3am club?
It can be from parenting to relationships, literally just one thing you would like to share with everyone.
So, people that are watching, that are up at 3 a.m. watching this, I would say that it feels like in the moment when you've got this young baby, that this is going to be your life forever. And I feel like having Rio now he's nearly like just past 2, how quickly these little segments of having a baby goes. And although it might feel like, oh, am I ever going to sleep again? Just know that this is just such a small fraction of your life, and just try your best just to relish in that moment. Even if it feels hard, even if it feels tough, it's not going to last forever. So just make sure you make the most of these tiny little moments in their
I love that.
development.
The days are so long, but the years are so
Totally.
short.
That is so true.
Yeah.
And I love the idea of maybe just positioning it in a different way. Like, rather than it being like a 3 a.m. night feed, maybe it's like a 3 a.m. like clubbing experience. And you just, like,
Put Hey Bear on and
it's like have a rave.
Yeah.
So funny.
I love that.
So thank you guys so much for coming on. It's been amazing to talk to you and amazing to finally meet.
Yeah, our
Thank
very
you so
first
much.
guest.
Yeah, I feel like it's been so long that we've been like trying to arrange to meet, and we finally actually got to sit
Yeah, it's
down
been
and talk.
perfect.
Yeah,
Thank
we're
you for
so
having
privileged
us.
to be your first guest. by the
Yeah.
way.
Oh, we wouldn't want anyone else.
No.
Guys, thank you so much for joining us for the 3am club today.
Make sure to subscribe to our show on YouTube and listen on Spotify or your podcast app of choice.
Feel free to leave a comment, and hopefully a really good review too.
Remember, you're part of the 3am club too, so get in touch with your parenting hacks, stories, and questions.
You can find us all over social media. Type in at 3am club podcast and you'll be able to find us there.
Bye.